Hello and welcome to Seismic Cinema. Get those feet up, grab the popcorn, and let's escape reality for the next possibly 5 minutes, possibly 5 hours. It's me hosting today for the first time. Not really sure what I'm doing, but hopefully we'll get through it and I won't drive Colin too crazy. And on screen, we've got our daft wee names for those people that are on Spotify. So my name on this is Grindelwald. And what's yours, Colin?
Jacob.
Nice. So that is starting our theme for tonight's movie review, which is Fantastic Beasts and the Secrets of Dumbledore.
And I brought for YouTube viewers, I've got my wee Hedwig and my Harry and my Marauders map mug.
Unfortunately, I did not do a lot of prep for this, so I've got nothing. I was actually tempted to go in the back garden and grab a stick to pretend it was a wand, but other than that, I have got no merchandise whatsoever. And unfortunately, I was meant to see this movie, and I was also meant to see James of Grindelwald before to prep, and I managed to see neither. So this is basically me interviewing Jacob, aka Colin, on his experience watching the new movie, and he's also going to give us a brief overview of the first two movies just to give us kind of context. And yeah, so are you wanting to start us off with a wee general overview of the first two movies?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, first of all, that you nailed that intro and you did it better than I've done it in the two times we've tried it since we came up with the new intro. Also, you forgot to mention something we're going to do at the end, though.
Oh, I knew I'd mess it up. So, yes, it's a brand new feature thought up by Colin, which we may or may not have pinched from somewhere else. We don't know. It is, we're going to do just 5 quick-fire questions, which are based on movie and TV. I think this week Colin's going to ask me 5 quick-fire questions. And if anyone knows me, I'm not really quick thinking on my feet, so it'll probably be very slow questions.
It's not like I'm not testing your knowledge. It's more like your opinions and things like that. Your choices.
I'm not sure I've got opinions.
You will when we get there.
Oh,
Right,
anyway,
so do you want me to give
feel
a
like
wee overview?
What's that?
Do you want me to give a wee overview of 1 and 2 then?
I only go a wee overview of 1 and 2. Oh,
Right,
but
so-
I have seen 1. I seen it when it first came out in cinemas. I think I seen it with you. So that's the only redemption I've got for this episode.
I'll do a quick one. Apologies to anyone who's already seen, or people who are just here for Secrets of Dumbledore. So feel free to skip the next few minutes if you want and get straight to the good stuff. So, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was the name of the first movie. It was set in New York, and there's a brand new character called Newt Scamander, who, for the bookworms, he actually is the author of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the textbook which Harry actually has at Hogwarts. So Newt Scamander's name is actually in the Harry Potter lore from way back in the books. So he goes to New York with a magical case full of magical creatures, and unfortunately, upon a visit to a bank where he meets my character Jacob, he unfortunately lets them loose in New York, and it causes a wee bit of a stir. So half of the movie's a bit like Pokemon Go, where Newt and Jacob and their 2 female companions, Queenie and Tina. Maybe miss. I think that's right. They help him try and get the creatures back. However, there's a subplot in the movie where there's a kind of mysterious force devastating New York, and it's actually what's called an obscurus. So an obscurus is where basically a wizard has repressed their magic for some reason. Like Credence was an orphan, and he was beaten up by his surrogate mother, who was like a anti-witch person who campaigned against them. And so he kind of repressed his magic, and then as a result, he kind of exploded and took on this obscurus form and was terrorizing New York. He kills a senator, and there's a big showdown at the end where Newt is fighting against, well, not fighting against, he's trying to save Credence. But there's also there's another character in the mix who's an order for the kind of American version of the Ministry for Magic, and he's in the movie quite a lot, but it's not till the end that it's actually revealed that he is Grindelwald in disguise, and he's trying to recruit Credence to help him with his war against the Muggles and to take over the magical world. So that's just a brief overview of the first one. I've not went into massive amounts of detail. Is there anything there?
That was a lot of detail, actually.
Is there anything there you want to question at this stage? Because it will probably help you further down the line.
Maybe about 75% of the words you actually used in that speech.
Okay, and there you want to pick it?
No, actually, when you're talking about it, it did kind of bring back a lot. To be honest, I totally forgot about the mysterious force that was destroying parts of New York. I totally forgot about that. I just remember him having the case, him losing the case, or letting it go, and then him and his wee buddy, Jacob, just kind of had a wee adventure together. And then I remember it being really sad at the end because did he wipe his memory or something?
Yeah, they do a spell and to make him lose his memory, but he still has traces of it. So when he sees Queenie, his kind of love interest, at his bakery at the end, he actually remembers her kind of, and all his pastries are inspired by his experience with the magical world.
Oh, so that's cute.
We don't want to spend too long on this one. So the second movie is Crimes of Grindelwald, and I really, really look forward to the movie, and I was greatly disappointed with the movie. I think Fantastic Beasts, the first one, has its issues, but it's a lot better than the second one, and my memory won't be as great. But I'll give you just a brief overview. So basically, Grindelwald is in jail, and I can't even remember where he's in jail. So he basically kind of trades places with one of the guards, and he escapes the prison. And then he goes to Paris, where Credence is. So the dark force from the first one is in Paris. So he goes there, and he's trying to recruit Credence and start building his army. Newt's basically got because of his escapades in New York, he's got an international ban. So he goes to a ministry meeting and tries to get that overturned. And then young Dumbledore is in it for the first time. So Jude Law's Dumbledore basically wants Newt to go to France and confront Grindelwald because Dumbledore is not able to move against Grindelwald, and I'll talk a wee bit more about that later. So Newt ends up in Paris, where his love interest for the first film happens to be, and there's a lot of magical creatures. There's some cool scenes in Paris and stuff, but the movie just becomes very convoluted, and there's a character so memorable that I've forgotten his name, who basically has a link to the family of Lita Lestrange, who's the girl that Newt holds a picture of in his case, who it turns out he was friends with when he was younger. I think they probably had some kind of feelings for each other, but she eventually marries his brother, Theseus. So basically, there's a long-winded story where Lita Lestrange had a wee brother and she went on a boat, but then the baby was crying. So she switched the baby with another baby that wasn't crying, which turned out to be Credence. So it's very confusing, that bit. I still don't fully understand it. At the end of the movie, though, it's revealed that Credence, which is the dark force from the first one, that he's actually a Dumbledore. So it's revealed that he is part of the Dumbledore bloodline. And at the end of the movie, Grindelwald does basically a Hitler speech at this kind of auditorium, and he's trying to kind of rally all the wizards to his side. And Queenie, which is Jacob's love interest, she is attracted to Grindelwald's mantra because he basically wants to, she thinks under his rule, she'll actually be able to marry Jacob. So she kind of goes over to the dark side. The Lita Lestrange character, which is Newt's brother's love interest, see, very convoluted, she ends up dying. And then, someone else that's in it, Nicholas Flamel. Do you remember the guy who created the Philosopher's Stone in the very first movie?
Yes.
He's actually in it. He makes an appearance in it, and he fights against kind of Grindelwald and his followers. And it kind of ends with them revealing that Dumbledore and Grindelwald made a pact when they were younger that they can't move against each other in battle. So there's a magical object that basically stops them. So if Dumbledore tried to fight against Grindelwald, he would die essentially. That plus the reveal of Credence being a Dumbledore is the kind of setup for the next movie. It's not the whole thing's not terrible. I just feel like there's that really convoluted bit with the baby swap on the boat, and I felt like the end of the film felt like there was another half hour to go. I felt like it just abruptly was at the end. I don't know if it's because the middle was really poorly paced, but anyway, that's a really bad summary of the second film.
Jeez, oh, that's it seems like a lot of complex relationships in this kind of.
Yeah, I'll hopefully as we get into talking about Secrets of Dumbledore, I can unravel a few of those for you as best I can.
No worries. So the first one you liked, second one you're quite disappointed in.
Yeah, quite disappointed. And then there was a big kind of 4-year gap to this one because of COVID, etc., and delays.
Yeah, it got pushed back 2 years, didn't it?
So now I'm ready to take questions about Secrets of Dumbledore.
Right, okay, no worries. Well, that was actually one of the first things when I was reading up on it. The kind of main thing that stood out to me was the kind of blood pact between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. So how did that kind of come about?
So there's a place called Godric's Hollow. You've seen all the Harry Potter films, haven't you? Pretty much.
I have when they first came out. I've not seen them in a long time.
Dumbledore's family lived in a place called Godric's Hollow, and Dumbledore had a younger sister called Ariana.
Grande?
Not Ariana Grande, no. Ariana Dumbledore, who was actually revealed in this film. This was a big exclusive for this film, Secrets of Dumbledore, that and this was a long-term fan theory, that she is an Obscurus. So Dumbledore's sister was afflicted with the same thing as Credence. She basically fought against being magical, and that caused her to have like angry outbursts and like be quite destructive. So there was some muggles in the area they lived that were like horrible to her and kind of bullied her, and they hurt her at one point. And then I think Dumbledore's dad, he like attacked the muggles who attacked the Dumbledore's sister, and I think he ended up going to Azkaban.
Right.
So with the dad away, I think the mum, Dumbledore's mum died, Kendra, I think she was called, and it basically left Albus Dumbledore as the oldest in charge of the family. So Albus Dumbledore has a younger brother called Aberforth, who he's actually in Deathly Hallows. He's in a couple of the movies. He's not got a massive part.
I was going to say, I was saying I've heard that name before.
He's a barman. He's basically a barman in the Hog's Head, which is one of the pubs in the village. Okay. And he doesn't really get on that well with Dumbledore. He's quite gruff, and if you've seen this film, he's quite a kind of grumpy guy. And then basically when Albus is like the head of the family, I knew his neighbour, who's called Bathilda Bagshot, she was the author of A History of Magic, which is one of the kind of big books that Harry uses at school. Her nephew, who comes to stay with her, is Grindelwald. Okay, so Grindelwald is the nephew of Dumbledore's neighbour, and they became like best friends. They had this shared ideology. So basically, when Dumbledore was younger, he basically believed that wizards should rule over muggles. So Dumbledore, although he's
Dumbledore did?
Yeah, so when Albus Dumbledore was younger, he was basically all about wizard superiority, and they had a right to rule, that kind of thing. And it was already known, it was revealed like just in like an interview with J.K. Rowling, but Albus and they never really revealed if Grindelwald reciprocated this, but Albus was in love with Grindelwald.
Okay.
He's in love with them, and it's actually mentioned in this film, and Albus mentions that he loves him, and when they're having like a fight, Grindelwald says like, "Who will love you now?" So it never really revealed if Grindelwald felt the same way, but Albus was in love with Grindelwald. So they made that pact so they could never move against each other, both
Yeah.
because of how they felt about each other, but also because they had this shared vision when they were younger. So they made this blood pact so that they couldn't move against each other, and that's why Newt has to kind of take the lead in a lot of senses.
Right. Okay. So that's probably why it's called Secrets of Dumbledore, because like one of his secrets.
One of his secrets is that his sister was an Obscurus, because that was never actually revealed in the Harry Potter books or movies. His love for Grindelwald isn't really a secret to those who know the lore, but there is another one which I'll get to later on.
Yeah. Okay. And Grindelwald in this, that's Mads Mikkelsen, isn't it?
Yeah, so Colin Farrell plays the disguised Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts, and then it's then revealed to be Johnny Depp, and we obviously won't go into it, but Johnny Depp was sacked by Warner Brothers. I like Johnny Depp, but Mads Mikkelsen's a much superior Grindelwald. Like,
Is he?
I know you've not seen it, but he's just so charismatic. You can see why like Jude Law's Dumbledore would, like, I can't imagine Jude Law's Dumbledore being in love with Johnny Depp's Grindelwald, but you can see how that they had that kind of chemistry, the two actors, and he gives a really good performance.
See when they changed the actors over, did they ever address it in the story, or was it just a straight swap and it was never
mentioned? But
okay.
I think everybody knew
Yeah.
what happened, so it'd have been a bit jarring, I think, if they had mentioned it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it would be like one of these things where, you know, like he was disguised as Colin Farrell, and maybe he was disguised as Johnny Depp or something. But
I think that would have been worse, to be honest.
Yeah, sometimes they can overplay it to correct things when sometimes all they need is just a straight swap and let the audience make out for themselves.
Yeah,
so that's good. It's good that they made a kind of a seamless changeover kind of thing, because it could get a bit messy, especially if they cast it wrong.
Yeah, but I think he's a really safe pair of hands, and I think we both liked him in Rogue One as well.
Yeah, what's his name in that? Galen Erso.
Galen Erso, yeah.
Poor man.
He's not got a lot to do in that, but I think he gives a really strong performance.
Yeah, to be fair, I think I've yet to see him in anything that he's been substandard in. He always gives us all. So yeah, that was just one of the things I was kind of worried about as well. I wasn't sure how that would be.
Yeah.
And the next one I was going to say, when I was kind of reading over it, it sounded quite political. This movie had a lot of political undertones, and just to see what your kind of thoughts on that were.
I really quite enjoyed it, actually. So I think it was like the International Confederation of Wizards. So it's basically the Wizards version of the UN. So there's a bit early in the movie where they're in Berlin, and it seems like the German Minister for Magic is the current holder of that position.
Right.
So there's two candidates that weren't that important in the story, so I can't really remember their names, but there was two candidates who were going for it. But Grindelwald had a lot of followers, and in the streets, people are chanting his name, lifting them above them. And eventually, the German Minister for Magic says that they should let Gellert Grindelwald run for this position as essentially the head of the magical society. And he basically wants to do it to say, right, if we say he can run and they vote against him, then the people have spoken. But it becomes clear in the film that he's gaining a lot of popularity from like lots of different people in lots of different countries. So it doesn't eventually go to plan.
Yeah, and that's purely based on this ideology that the wizards should be taking over the entire world, basically.
That's his kind of big selling point, because at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald, he uses a spell that shows a vision of the future, because this is set pre the World Wars in like the real world.
Okay.
And it shows like visions of like nuclear bombs and like bombings from like planes and stuff. So he shows like what the Muggles can do. He's basically trying to say, if the Muggles are angry, this is what they'll do to us. So he's trying to like justify his actions by like kind of what he sees in the future. So that was at the end of the second one.
Nice. It does actually sound like quite an intriguing kind of movie. I wish I got to see it. I just didn't have time to go to the cinema.
I thought we'll sort it out one day. I've got the second one on Blu-ray, and I'll buy the third one when it comes out. We can make a wee weekend of it.
Oh, okay, it's a date.
I need to check my calendar first. So yeah, there's more to the political bit. I've just kind of led you up to that point, but there's an important bit that ties into the story, which I'll leave it there and see if you bring it up, and if you don't, I'll bring it up.
Well, my next point was because we're talking like politics and stuff like that. There's quite a lot of underhanded things, like assassinations and things, and assassination attempts.
There is a scene where, and it's in the trailer a lot, that Jacob, the no-mage, as they call him in America, Dumbledore gives him a wand.
What do they call him? A no-magic.
No-mage, or no-magique in French. So basically, he gives Jacob a wand. It's not like a proper wand. It doesn't have like the core that wizards have, like a phoenix feather or that, so it's not as powerful. But then he basically tells Jacob and a new character, I've forgotten her name now. Did you write it down?
Of course I didn't.
I forgot. Anyway, the new character who's great. I'll look her name up in a wee minute.
Is it a professor or something?
She's a professor. I've just forgotten her name. I'll come back to me. She was really good, actually. So Jacob and her go to, it's like some kind of graduation dinner. I'm not quite sure what it was, but Grindelwald's there, and Queenie's there. So Queenie's Jacob's love interest that you remember from the first film.
Yeah.
And she's obviously went over to Grindelwald's side, and Jacob sees her and he gets really angry, and he like brandishes his like kind of fake wand at Grindelwald, and the press all kind of caught it, and they made it look like there was like a muggle trying to assassinate Grindelwald. So it was all part of like Dumbledore's scheme, which is a bit unclear throughout the film. It's just a bit of a random plan, but there is a cool part to the Dumbledore's overall plan, which I can talk you through when the moment's right.
When is the moment right?
Well, will I go for the moment now?
You could go for any moment you want.
I think this bit's quite important. So one thing I liked about this film, obviously, you had the first film, the beasts were a huge part of the plot because obviously they're missing and half the film is looking for them. Seeing the second film, it all felt a bit tacked on. The big issue with this franchise is they're simultaneously trying to make it like Pokemon Go with Newt Scamander, who just loves animals, and like a story about Grindelwald and Dumbledore. So they've got these like two stories that are competing for attention. It doesn't always work. Because in the second film, I felt like the creatures were really tacked on. You've got the kind of recurring ones, like, the Niffler, the one that steals the money.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Never goes into the bank.
Oh, is it got the wee kind of snout thing?
Yeah, that's a Niffler, and that's in all of them. And there's also Pickett, the Bowtruckle, the wee green guy.
Oh God, Colin, I cannot remember any of these now.
There's a wee stick insect, and he's green.
It sounds vaguely familiar. There's a kind of big elephant one as well, like a kind of one that's kind of made of lights or something.
Yeah, but they're the two I mentioned are the recurring ones. But what I thought was good about this film is they put this new creature into essentially a starring role and becomes a huge part of the overall plot. So I really liked the way, although this was still about Dumbledore and Grindelwald, the Fantastic Beast was really crucial to the plot. And I know you know what the beast's called because you mentioned it pre-filming.
So is that the Quillen? Is that how you say it? Or a Quillen?
We'll go with that anyway. So what happens is it's Newt's first appearance in the film. He's like out in a boat, and a mother of one of these creatures is giving birth, and she gives birth to twins. So some of Grindelwald's men turn up and they murder one of no, they don't murder one of the twins. They steal one of the twins, and the mum ends up dying because of a spell they cast. Right. So Newt has one of these creatures, and Grindelwald has one. And you find out that the reason these are important is essentially they can like show glimpses of the future. So they're a really powerful thing. But also, crucially, they basically can show who the most kind of trustworthy and pure of heart people are. So they're actually used as part of the election process.
All right, okay. Oh,
So,
can you imagine them doing it for politicians these days?
so what happens is, if say the three candidates are there, the Quillen will bow to the one they think's most worthy. Okay, so keep that in your head. So Grindelwald has kidnapped one of the babies of this creature, but he conducts some dark magic, and this is a bit that animal lovers won't like. He essentially kills it, but then rebirths it in this like water. So he basically brings the creature back from the dead, and that's also important for later. So it became Dumbledore basically says, "You're going to want to." Grindelwald's going to want this twin as well because he wants this like these powerful creatures with these special powers. So they concoct this elaborate plan, which at first is ridiculous, and I didn't really understand it at first, but it actually makes sense when you get to the conclusion of the film. All the main characters, like Jacob, the new professor character, Newt's assistant, who helps him manage his animals, Bunty, she's called, and so basically all the kind of main gang, including Newt's brother, they get given identical cases like Newt's. So basically, when they turn up to where the vote for the new head of the magical confederation is taking place, they've all got these different cases. So Grindelwald doesn't know which case has the actual creature in it.
Oh, the old switcheroo.
And it's actually quite well done. I didn't really understand it at first, but the reason they did this is that see the Quillen that Grindelwald kind of rebirthed.
Yes.
It bows to him on stage.
Right. So he killed it so he could bring it back, and he has full control of it.
Yeah, essentially. And then it bows to Grindelwald in front of all the kind of the viewers, and that essentially crowns him as like the head of the Confederation. But what happens is Newt uses the other Quillen to basically show. Do you know I talked about they showed like the World War II vision?
Yes.
They basically show the vision of Grindelwald killing and rebirthing the other one. So at first I wasn't sure. I was like, see if Grindelwald's after this creature, why would you bring it to where he is? And I couldn't comprehend that. But they actually wanted to prove the things that he'd done to get voted in, to show that he's not a good guy and that he conducts evil acts. So it's actually quite confusing why they wanted to get there in the first place. But see, when it actually unraveled at the end, it was like, oh, okay, they're doing that to show Grindelwald's true colours and show that he's not the one to lead the magical community.
Yeah, okay. So the Quillen, so that it could show events in the past as well as the future.
Yeah.
And see, when you're saying about he was addressing his followers, was that at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald?
No. Well, he does that at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald when he shows like what's going to happen in the future world wars. But at the end of this, as a spell of some kind, yeah, he basically goes to, I can't remember, it's an Asian country, and I'm struggling to remember the name of it. But yeah, it's Bhutan. Yeah, so they go to like a temple there, and that's where the vote or the election's taking place.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Quillen that Newt has comes out and bows to Albus Dumbledore, and historically Dumbledore has never. So Dumbledore was the headmaster at Hogwarts.
I do remember that. Yes,
he was mentioned in the books. It's mentioned multiple times that he was offered the Minister for Magic job.
Right. Okay.
But he never accepted it. He was the most powerful, smartest wizard of the age, but he never accepted being the Minister for Magic, and that's a similar theme in this movie, where he refuses to be like the head of the International Confederation. Can you think why that might be? It links to something I said earlier, so I just wondered if you could.
So he's not. So he doesn't take up a position because he hates people.
No, it's because, like I said, when he was younger, he was seduced by all these powers and ruling over the Muggles. So he essentially never wanted to be in a position where he had that kind
A
of
position
power
of power.
because he didn't trust himself to have that power.
Oh, so he just takes himself out of the equation
Yeah,
just so he doesn't have the chance.
yeah,
How very
and
noble.
eventually, I think Dumbledore says, "I can think of someone better for the position," and somebody, you know how there was other candidates.
Yeah.
He says to the Quillen, like, this person is pure of heart, they'll be good at it, yada yada yada. And they eventually get appointed, and Grindelwald gets in a bit of a battle. So there's some quite scary scenes. Like, I often find in movies, I realize I care about characters when they're in peril. Do you know what I mean? See, when like you've known characters for a few movies and then you suddenly feel that they might be killed off, you
Yeah.
suddenly feel quite defensive. Like, I felt it with
I think it's
Finn.
called Game of Thrones syndrome.
I felt it with Finn and Rise of Skywalker. Actually, I had a weird feeling they were going to kill Finn off, and when he didn't, I was actually quite pleased. So I think it kind of showed me in that moment that he was a character that I cared about. But back to this film, the bit I was talking about, Grindelwald, when he's basically been voted out, he uses the Cruciatus curse. Do you remember that from any of the movies? It's like the torture curse.
I'll say yes, but most definitely not.
Well, Voldemort's used it a few times, and like Mad Eye Moody, remember in Goblet of Fire, the guy with the crazy eye and the wooden leg.
Oh, yes, yes, I remember him.
He teaches them how to use it, although he shouldn't be. So basically, Grindelwald uses that spell on Jacob, who's obviously a Muggle. So
Yeah.
he's using the Cruciatus curse, which is one of the 3 unforgivable curses that can get you put in wizard jail. And at that point, I thought Jacob was going to get killed off, but he didn't. He was saved. So there, Joe, have we talked about the blood pact earlier?
Yes.
There was a bit where I'm trying to remember exactly how it happened, but I think Grindelwald tried to take out Credence, who was there. I'll get back to Credence later, but he tried to take out Credence, and Dumbledore reactively cast a spell to block the curse.
Yeah.
And it's not like a great conclusion, this bit, but basically because Dumbledore acted against, he's not allowed to act against Grindelwald because of their blood pact.
Yeah. Is
Because
Grindelwald allowed to act against Dumbledore?
no, neither of them are.
Right, okay.
So Grindelwald was attacking Credence. I've only seen this film once, so I'm hoping I get these details right. And then Dumbledore essentially reacted and blocked the curse, and it destroyed the blood pact because Albus had reacted out of just like defense, like helping somebody, saving a life essentially.
Yeah,
That was
he
what,
didn't act
that,
out against Grindelwald intentionally.
that's what broke the curse. And then Albus and Gellert Grindelwald have a short battle, not their main battle, because in 1945 they have a big battle where Dumbledore defeats Grindelwald, and that's the kind of end of his reign of terror. And the reason I know that is because in the first Harry Potter book, Harry gets the chocolate frog card, and it says Dumbledore defeated Grindelwald in 1945. So that's been like known since book 1. So there's meant to be another 2 films in this series, but I've heard that they are assessing the box office performance of this one before deciding whether to finish the series. And if that being said after Crimes of Grindelwald, I would have said, yeah, I get it. But I actually really enjoyed this film. I've probably done an awful job at explaining it. But if you actually saw it, I think it is a much superior movie to the second one. But I also think it strikes that tonal balance of the beasts and the kind of war story together better.
Yeah, because I was going to ask about that because obviously it's called Fantastic Beasts, but when I was reading up about it, there was barely any mention. There's only seen that Quillen, and that was the only thing that was ever mentioned. And I was wondering if maybe that had just taken a back burner for, like all you're saying, all this kind of political geopolitical movement.
The main criticism, and I've mentioned it earlier, is that they're basically trying to tell two stories in one.
Yeah. Do you think it'd been better if they'd focused on one more than the other?
Yeah, so I've heard people say that they should have done like a light-hearted series about Newt traveling the world and finding all these beasts, and yeah, and then a separate story about like Dumbledore and Grindelwald. I feel like the first movie they just had that identity crisis. Like it was literally like two movies in one. The beast bit was more interesting in the first one, I would say. The second one was just a disaster as a movie. But the third one, as I said, had the Quillen in that essential role. It had the recurring beasts, and there's a few other ones here and there as well. So it's a bit better. But yeah, I think it is a case of it probably should have been two different franchises.
Yeah. I think if you're
With
going to have
two
like
different audiences.
a light-hearted kind of beast one, that kind of sounds more like a TV show kind of premise. I don't think you can make too many movies about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a TV series would have been good, like a kind of maybe like a wizard documentary series. Because what happened is, and Eddie Redmayne is brilliant as Newt Scamander, and he's just brilliant in general. I've seen his movie, the is it Theory of Everything, the one where he plays Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, I've not seen that, but I've heard good.
That's amazing. And he also plays. He's also in. It's called The Danish Girl. He's like the world's first transgender person who undergoes the operation. He basically plays a male becoming a female, and he does an amazing job in it. It's set in Copenhagen. So there's two really good films in there.
But have you seen Jupiter Ascending?
No.
Don't watch it.
Anyway, I went on a sidetrack there, but basically what I meant to say was Eddie Redmayne doesn't really feel like the main character in this film, even though it's meant to be his franchise.
Yeah, it does sound like he's been kind of put in the background for this Dumbledore, Grindelwald kind of, because like he's not even mentioned in like any of the titles. It's all Grindelwald, Dumbledore.
There's a lot to love about this series, and as a massive Harry Potter fan of the books and most of the films, I can appreciate a lot of it. And that reveal about Dumbledore's sister being an Obscurus, and I love Jude Law as Dumbledore. I think he does a great job. Some of the newer characters like Jacob are fantastic. Grindelwald is really well done in this film. One big error with the movies is, and it's well documented, McGonagall's in it when she's younger, but McGonagall wasn't actually canonically born when these films are set. So J.K. Rowling created a website called Pottermore. It's basically like a website all about Harry Potter, and it delves into the backstories of loads of characters, etc. And McGonagall isn't even born when these films take place, and it is Minerva McGonagall. It is the character. It's not her mum or anything. Was debated.
You'd think they'd have researchers for these kind of things.
J.K. Rowling wrote the screenplay for all three films.
Well, that was a bit of a doozy.
So J.K. Rowling wrote the screenplay for the first two, right? And on the third one, she partnered up with Steve Clovis, who was the screenwriter for the majority of the Harry Potter films. So a lot of people are saying the reason this one seems the strongest out of the three is that the original Harry Potter screenwriter was involved, not just J.K. Rowling.
No, that's good. I'm glad to. So you think moving forward that they'll kind of continue that partnership?
Well, there might not be a fourth and fifth. There's meant to be 5 parts to the story, and I really do. I'm just a sucker for anything in the Harry Potter world, so I hope they do finish it. And I think I really did enjoy this, and I hope you do watch the film one day, and hopefully you'll see that it is a pretty decent movie. And it's it's like a political thriller, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Cinematography wise, what did you think of it?
Yeah, the films are great. Like, the way they show magic, you might remember it from the first film. Remember when New York got like destroyed and they repaired it by magic, and you basically see the spells reversing. It shows like the damage, and then it just like it shows you like the bridges getting fixed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
and it was like brick by brick going in, wasn't it?
it does look amazing. Like it's great going to all the different European cities like Berlin and Paris in the second one, and Bhutan, and the costume design is fantastic. The acting's great. There's a lot to love with these films. I think it's just the writing and the mix of tones is the main issue.
Yeah, it does seem like when you're talking about it, it does seem like there's a lot going on, but I think there has to be a lot going on because there's these two different, like you're saying, the two different movies.
Yeah.
And my tiny wee brain, I don't know if it will handle it.
And there's one big part of the story I've not mentioned, which I'll just mention quickly. There's the final secret of Dumbledore, and it's a wee bit of an anticlimax. I like it better than the alternative. So when they said that Credence was a Dumbledore, ironically, you're sporting a Credence haircut from the third film, by the way.
Is this something from the 1920s, 30s?
No, he's just got long hair. Basically, so when they reveal Credence as a Dumbledore at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald, you think they made it seem like he was like Dumbledore and Aberforth, which is his brother, like their younger brother that nobody knew about.
Right.
But we know from the books that there wasn't an extra Dumbledore sibling. So what happens is, do you remember in Doctor Sleep when Ewan McGregor's character and the wee girl are communicating via the messages on the wall?
Yes.
There's a wee bit like that in here where, because Aberforth, Dumbledore's brother, he owns a pub, he's writing on the mirror and there's messages coming back, and that kind of happens a few times in the early parts of the film. So it turns out Aberforth was writing to Credence because it turns out that he's not Dumbledore's brother, he's actually Aberforth's son. So Credence, which is the Black Mass and the kind of emo boy from the first film, he's actually Dumbledore's brother's son, who he had.
His nephew.
His nephew. So Aberforth met someone when they lived in the wizard village from earlier, and the baby was born, and I don't really know what happened after that. So yeah, it was a bit of an anticlimax, but I prefer Credence being Aberforth's son to him being like an extra Dumbledore brother.
Yeah. Is Credence Ezra Miller?
Yeah, Ezra Miller, yeah.
The Flash.
Yep. So I don't know if you get any further questions. I've probably done a really bad job at explaining this, but hopefully you've followed the gist of what I've tried to explain.
No, I thought you kind of explained it really well. Because obviously I've not seen it. I've not seen the second one, so like a lot of that could have went totally over my head. Some of it did, but it's only because I'm not clued up on the terminology. Like I've not seen like the Harry Potter movies in ages, kind of thing.
It seems like a lot, and there is quite a lot packed into the films, but it's naturally going to seem like more when I'm explaining like.
Yeah, it's like any movie. It's going to have plots and subplots and relationships. So until you actually see it,
I think I've touched on the main plot threads and like the connections to the lore and stuff. So hopefully you've learned a wee bit about the Harry Potter world tonight.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I meant to say at the start, it's a spoiler review.
Bit late now.
Yeah, just in case. Oh, I meant to say, explain to me what a mugwump is.
I think it's basically just like a leadership role. The only time I remember the word was it was mentioned in one of the books. I think it's basically just like a senior wizarding position within like the government.
So like a minister or a president or something like that. Some title.
Is there any other particular terms that you didn't get?
Magic. What is that?
This podcast.
Aye. No, I think that was all the kind of things I was more worried about. We'll get anything else written down. No, I was going to say as well. I see me saying that. I'm going to say. So it's been quite a a kind of mixed reception. It's been about 50-50. It's actually got a 6.6 on IMDb. So you think that's fair, or do you think it's going to steadily grow as the movie gets more widely distributed?
I think there's some issues with. I think Crimes of Grindelwald's quality impacted maybe the amount of people going to see this, because I wasn't even as excited as I would normally have been. But there's also this big thing with people boycotting it because of Johnny Depp, which is going to have an impact on the box office. I think people. I think you just need to go see movies and watch shows for yourself. I think everyone has different likes and views and knowledge, and I really think people just need to see it for themselves. And I think the majority of Harry Potter fans will really enjoy this movie if they saw it.
Yeah. So it's had quite a lot of kind of background issues affecting it.
Do you want my rating out of 10?
Colin, I'm running this show. I will tell you when I want your rating.
Do you want it now?
I'll have it now.
Right, I will give
out of 15.
Why 15?
Because I'm running the show.
Right, I'll give it. Can I just give it a 10?
Aye, all right. I'll let you with it.
Right, I'll give it a. I'll probably give it an 8, if I'm honest.
You are very, very generous in these podcasts, by the way.
No, Crimes of Grindelwald, I'd probably give like a 5. So giving this an 8. I think it has, as I said, the beasts in more of a prominent role. It has a more streamlined structure, although I didn't describe it very well. It has a plot, it sticks to it. There's a lot of wee bits to the Harry Potter lore, and I think it is a really well acted and made film. So I'm going to 8.
Is there any kind of big battle scenes that will appeal to such action junkies as myself?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool uses of magic, and there is like maybe 3 or 4 kind of wizard battles throughout it.
Nice, that's what I like to hear. I'll just watch it for that.
Okay.
So you went a good solid 8 out of 10. I like that. What would you have given the first one?
I'd probably give it a 7.
7.
Because I feel like it's enjoyable, but it's not got a clear focus. It's, as I said, 2 movies in one. This one, I think, struck the balance a bit better, which edges it to an 8.
Excellent. So it's finished. So if there is a 4th and 5th, that's a good middle point to start again. Hopefully, push on.
Yeah, I think it should personally continue.
So, seeing as I'm in charge, I thought, may try and wrap it up here. But you know what? No, we can't, because I forgot we're doing our 5 quick fire questions.
Right, you ready then?
Hold on a minute. Right.
Are you excited?
I'm excited but terrified at the same time.
I'm going to do these from 5 to 1. I actually think the first question's a better one to finish with. Right. In How I Met Your Mother, who do you think Ted should have ended up with? And why?
Kobe Smulders.
Okay, why?
Because they just had such a kind of willy wontley at the start, and you just get on so well, and I like them together.
Have you seen the end of How I Met Your Mother?
I've not. Do they get together?
Do you not know the end of How I Met Your Mother?
No, I've not seen the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I won't go any further then.
But I'm happy with that, so I'm happy.
Okay, right. Number 4. So going back the way, what's one movie or show, either, or one of each if you want, that you like that you don't think anyone else does, or you don't think a lot of people do? So, like, your hot take.
Probably a movie called Battle Los Angeles.
Okay, I've not seen that.
Right, it's got what's his name? Aaron Eckhart. Two-Face in the Dark Knight movie.
Yeah.
So he's in it, and it's basically he's a Marine sergeant. He's got all these Marines, and Michelle Rodriguez is in it at the tail end of her career. So you know it's going to be a great movie.
Mhm.
It's an alien invasion film. The CGI is pretty naff, but it's just like all action, explosions. It's just daft. And the story doesn't really make sense. The aliens look pretty terrible, but it's just good for like a good action movie. It's just what I'm saying: explosions, gunfire, aliens. Aaron Eckhart's pretty good in it, so that's my kind of guilty pleasure. I like it, but it's pretty awful.
Fair enough. Right. Here's a good one.
Oh,
If you were in the Suits universe and you were up in court, who are you picking to defend you?
Harvey Specter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can talk his way out of anything. Like Mike's a close second, but he's not got the life experience that Harvey's got.
Yeah.
Like he can memorize all the pages, but you can't do it like Harvey Specter.
Fair enough. Number two, this is just quite a fun one. What's your favourite? It doesn't matter which version it's from. What's your favourite colour of Power Ranger? Like it could be from any of the iterations.
Blue.
Blue. Okay. Any particular one?
I think I was just always the blue Power Ranger when I was younger, and when we were playing a bit and all that. Definitely always the blue.
Like the
The
blue
blue or
one.
the green when it was the early doors.
I can remember you going as like. Did you ever go as Halloween as like the White Ranger or the Red Ranger? No, did I make that up?
I don't think so. I vaguely remember some. I think maybe my brother had one. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Because I remember did you not used to have like, the wee kind of white tiger knife thing?
I've got the sword. Yeah.
Sword, yeah.
It's got a lion head.
Yeah, is that the one I used to go like?
I hope I've still got that somewhere. I probably do. Right, last question. What actor or actress would you like to go for a drink/meal with? So if you could pick one person, one actor or actress you could
Oh God.
go out with, who would you choose?
Uh,
Just for a
oh.
meal or for a drink?
I'm not going to say any actresses because it could get me in trouble with the missus. So an actor that
Just someone you'd love to meet, you think would be cool to go out and just chat to and get to know.
I don't know. That's really hard. How long do I get for these quick fire questions?
You've got 10 seconds.
Oh, fudge. Um, Steve Carell.
Okay.
Because I panicked. And I don't know what came to my head was The Office USA, and he's just fantastic in that. He's in something new. It's called Space Force. It's just I'm not
He's
so
also
enamored with.
he's also Brick Tamland.
He's also 40-year-old virgin.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's a good choice. So did you enjoy my 5 quick fire questions?
Yeah, a couple of them were like really hard, put you on the spot. My brain doesn't work this time. That's good. The time of night.
I think if people make it this far, this will be their new favourite segment.
Yeah, we'll just skip to the last 5 minutes. Like, never mind the movie.
Yeah.
No, that was quite good. I quite enjoyed that.
No worries.
I look forward to hitting you with some nonsense come the next show.
Look forward to it.
Yeah. So, because I'm in charge, should I do the plugs or should you do the plugs?
I think you should go the whole way.
Right, okay. Started off strong, probably going to mess it up at the end, but we'll go for it. So, if you're wanting to watch our lovely faces, hopefully you can hear me a bit better because I'm on the laptop and I don't sound like I'm underwater. But if you want to see our lovely faces and Colin, you can you can see us on YouTube under Seismic Cinema. We also are on Apple Pods, Google Pods, Good Pods, Amazon Music, Audible, and basically anything you can listen to podcasts on. I'm pretty sure we're there.
You say Spotify, which is like our main one.
I was getting to that. If you really want to listen to us, like on our main thing, it's Spotify and Anchor, and you can hear us all under Seismic Cinema. And if you're wanting to, talk to us on social media or give us any suggestions, make fun of us, tell us we're wrong, which we usually are, you
I'm
can
just
catch us.
waiting for all the massive Potterheads coming to attack me after this one, getting some facts wrong.
And I'm waiting for all the Potterheads to be like, why has he not seen the last two movies? And he's hosting a show about the movies. So where was that again? So that's where you can hear us and watch us if you really, really have nothing better to do for an hour. I'm the self-deprecating host. He's the kind of positive host. So yeah, we are on social media. You can catch us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Probably most active on Twitter. That's where we've got a wee good community.
Mention the poll.
The poll. Oh, the poll. Right. On Twitter.
Be respectful, though.
I'm not sure I can be. On Twitter, we are taking part in a tournament, and we are actually in round 2. Lord knows I made it past round 1. So round 2 is to create a logo for the other podcast challenge. And the podcast we're against are pretty cocky and, meh, not nice.
They said we're not funny.
Yeah, they said we're not funny. And, come on, we're hilarious. When I watch this back, I'm going to laugh at
it.
Yeah. So, yeah, podcast challenge. If you go on to That Damn Podcast, we've also got links on all our social media. And vote for Seismic Cinema. Because we've actually done a logo for them created by our good friend Dan that sometimes appears on.
I thought you made it.
No.
You didn't tell me Dan made it.
You kidding me on? You think I made it? No.
I thought you did.
Not a chance. No, Dan made it. Sorry, Dan, if I've been taking your clout as well. Stealing the hosting duties, stealing the logo credit. But yeah, Dan made it. Basically making fun of the other team. So if you go and vote for us, it's really close. And by the time this airs, there'll probably be about 12 hours left to vote. So we'd really appreciate if you could do that. All our Twitter friends. And let's just do them. So yeah.
Wrap it up.
Sorry. I just get a bit emotional when we're competitive in tournaments. Right. So to wrap up, this is coming out on Thursday, and Colin will make sure it's all uploaded, good to go for 7 p.m.
Good.
Monday, we have got our usual ranking video. This time it has been picked by Daniel, and it is our favourite top 10. I messed up. So close.
Right, let's try and finish this on the hour. We've got a minute.
Right, got a minute. So it is our top 10 favourite 90s movies. So bear in mind, 90s, we were 10 and under, so maybe a bit childish.
Well, is in there.
And then Thursday, we have the Redemption episode next week, which will be a review of Good Will Hunting, because we got kind of slated when Neil was on the show, Neil the director, because Neil the Tank, because we hadn't seen Good Will Hunting. So yes, we'll be reviewing that. Hopefully get Redemption, and people will think we're actually a movie review podcast.
Nice. Also, if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube and you watch the videos, give us a wee subscribe.
Yes, because all you people here looking at us right now, 60% of you haven't pushed that button.
We're 70%. Paul, we got 10 seconds to do the slogan before we hang up.
Right, what's the slogan, Colin? Hit us with it.
That's the power of escapism.
And magic. Oh no, just escapism. So